I was on like all kind of weird steroids, like it's called SARMs. You know what that is?
He doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, I'm going to tell it like it is. Coach Greg, and finally, a Hollywood actor has openly admitting to using performance-enhancing drugs in order to play a movie role. And so we all knew it. But finally, someone had the courage to do it. And who is that actor? None other than Shia Labeouf. And so this guy was the main actor in the movie Transformers back in the day. Most people have seen Transformers. And you've seen his physique. He isn't a mountain of a man. He's not the mountain who recently deadlifted an all-time record, 510 kilograms, looking easy. Looked like he had 10 possibly 20 more kilograms. And so he lifted 1,124 pounds. It looked like he could have lifted over 1,150. It's ridiculous, diabolical. I personally hope that he retires because I want him to be around for a very long time. I'm sure most people want him to just keep using performance-enhancing drugs. You don't lift those kind of pounds natural, but we shall see. And so Shia LaBeouf, he went from 165 pounds to 220. That is a lot. That's 55 pounds. And no, it wasn't lean muscle. It wasn't all muscle, but it was, in fact, 55 pounds. And so if you were to just see his physique at 220, you'd probably say, yeah, he could have done that natural, natural. But with the time frame that he did it in, and remember, he's now 39 years of age, he didn't do it natural, and I'm not making this up. I'm not the catabolic twig. I don't just pull stats out of my ass. He admits it himself. He's very open.
Tell us a little about a bit about the process and how...
We did training, did some pad work, did some bag work.
And so he had to play the role of a boxer. He's 5'9" tall. And so 5'9" and 220 is a very big man. I'm 5'6", 190 pounds. And so it's bigger than me, but it's not all lean weight. And so because he wasn't lean, many people thought, he just ate a little bit more chicken, broccoli, and rice. And that's what happened. Perhaps some ice cream on the side.
It's like hard dance.
Hard dance.
Yeah, like boxing in movies is not like what he knows. It's hard dance.
And so as we're seeing him in this interview, he's got the massive mustache, the shorts on. He doesn't even look like he works out. Like if I didn't know any better, I would say this is just a guy that just goes about his daily life. He just perhaps plays video games, eats, goes for walks, and doesn't do anything physically active. I wouldn't call him looking like an athlete, but yet this was the guy that betrayed the boxer. An athlete. A man who's very, very fit. But people I know in the past, for example, Hussein Farhat, they think that he used to take steroids and that since that time he stopped and just kept all his gains. Where are his gains? He went from 220 pounds down to 165. Why? Why didn't he keep his gains? What I'm trying to teach people is that if you decide to take steroids, you don't just keep all of those gains. Let me think if I can think of another example. There's this guy, people call him the Pebble, the guy who didn't want to be a tombstone. He wanted to live longer than last time. He used to be called the Rock. He lost 50 or 60 pounds of muscle. Do you think he's 100% natural? Like, do you really think that he just, did Ozempic to lose all that muscle? But yet he lost it. How? Because he stopped abusing steroids. And so when you take steroids and you stop them, your muscles is going to go down no matter what you're thinking. Try not thinking that anymore and listen to reason. And so as he's hitting up the front double bicep, bro is over 25% body fat. I mean, maybe he's 30% body fat. He's certainly not lean. And so when people see before and after transformations, if the after doesn't end with a six-pack, people think, well, it probably was natural. If you use steroids, you're going to see abs. It doesn't work like that. Steroids don't give you abs. This just comes from a calorie deficit. So just because you take steroids, you're not going to be lean. And so for most people, if you just go to the gym and work out and you don't care about your diet and you don't do cardio, this is the kind of transformation that you're going to make. The way you see his finished look right here, most people who take steroids, that's what you're going to look like. You can see how he looks now that he's off of them. And so if he were to go back on steroids, most likely that's the kind of physique that he would have. And so it gives you an appreciation of what you would look like. Many of you think you'd look like perhaps Coach Greg, Hussein Farhat, or Chris Bumstead, but that is very, very rare. And so just because you take steroids doesn't mean in the end you're going to end up with your fantasy physique.
Traveler's World is super sexy. I knew I was,
And so you can see he's working on the tricep press downs. He doesn't have abs. He doesn't have a six pack, but he is significantly bigger. If I had to guess, I would say that this is what people actually think of when they think of a dad bod. They're thinking, yeah, this is a dad bod. And my opinion is it could be a dad bod. It's certainly bigger than most dads that I know. His current physique right now at 165 in comparison to 220, in my opinion, is more representative of a dad bod. An average dad. It's more what they look like. The average dad doesn't go to the gym and take steroids and weighs 220 pounds at 5'9". That ain't average. They're talking of his transformation, saying he had to transform both his accent, the way he speaks, as well as his body.
it was like, well, how am I going to fit in this world? I'm so tiny, small. And if you go meet any of these fighters, these travelers, even guys in my position who are just kind of bookies, they're big boys. They're bigger.
And so he was thinking, how am I going to play an actor, a boxer? These guys are big. I'm just a small man, 5'9", 165 pounds. It's not big. You can see his face is a little bit more gaunt. It's smaller around here, same as The Rock. When Rock is off the abusive drugs, he seems to have a leaner face. Even myself. Myself right now, I have a leaner face than I did when I was blasting, even on stage. And steroids obviously give you a puffier look in your face, but also make you a lot bigger. And so he felt small. Perhaps he had some body dysmorphia, or perhaps he just knew, I'm an actor. I'm expected to play this character, and this character should look this way, and I'm going to do whatever it takes, coined by famous Rich Piana, to do whatever it takes. And what it took was steroids. Or in his words, SARMs.
And I didn't want to act a lot. So I figured if I was bigger, I could be quieter and kinder.
And so merely by his presence, remember, he's an actor. Part of acting is not just what you say, it's how you move, how you talk, the way you present yourself. And just by having more muscle, taking up more space, that allowed him to be a better actor. It allowed him to play that part that much more. Rather than having to use words, to having to say so many things, his body spoke out loud for him.
And he's kind of like this bridge, so he's like Peter Pan. He's like Peter Pan meets like, who's that shitty boxer we always talk shit about, the Irish, what's his name?
The way that this guy talks in interviews, like this shitty boxer, this loser, this guy that we talk about, is like he doesn't give a fuck. He's just like, I'm going to tell it like it is. So I like this guy. He reminds me of myself. He's just going to tell you what he thinks. He doesn't care. He's not like The Rock, carefully scripting out every single word, making sure that everyone likes him. He just puts himself out there, and if you like it, great. If you don't, also great.
He's got to be you got to get the passport. You got to get permission. So permission was like the size.
And so he's talking about, you got to have permission, the passport, the size. You had to have that look. Without that look, he couldn't play the part.
And how much weight did you put on as well, just out of interest?
So I was about to die. We had a cardiologist tell me, you got to stop.
And so he's like, bro, they bring up his size. How much did you put on? He put on 55 pounds. His cardiologist said, whatever you're doing, you've got to stop. Obviously, they're getting their blood work done. They're getting examined by doctors. These are multimillionaires. They do, in fact, care about their health. Now, if you care about your health and you want to make sure that your wife or your loved ones, your girlfriend, your kids, you're there for them, of course, consider going with Algo RX. They can look at your blood work. You get your blood work taken with them. They can give you prescription medications to reduce all the dangers of what you're doing. Do you need enclomiphene? Do you need a semaglutide or tirzepatide to help with your diet? Do you need Cialis to, get harder than last time? What exactly do you need? And so if you're interested, code Greg, 10% off. And of course, they can, in fact, read your blood work. Many people get their blood work. They don't know what to do with it. They can also do that. Click the link in the description.
I was on like all kind of weird steroids, like not steroids, but it's called SARMs. You know what that is?
And so he says they encouraged him to take some weird steroids. They called them SARMs, selective androgen receptor modulators. Now, it shocks me that he couldn't have found a doctor. Perhaps they could have prescribed him HRT. Then if he wanted to get leaner, perhaps he could have prescribed terzipatide or a semaglutide. Now, a lot of people are talking about retatrutide, but you're essentially a guinea pig if you're using that because it isn't legal. It's not legally prescribed. It might be in the future, they're doing tests on it, but if you want things that are legal right now, semaglutide, terzipatide, they work exceedingly well. Now, I don't personally use them. I don't need them. I do a lot of cardio. But if you're struggling with food noise, you're obese and so on, I do think that there are more benefits to taking them than there are cons. Now, no drug is safe, but if you do so monitored by a doctor, I believe that they can be very beneficial. And so if you're interested, code Greg, 10% off.
Yeah, some weird new steroid that they gave me that I got big.
So isn't it interesting that it says it's a weird new steroid that they gave me? Who's they? The movie director, the people who hired him, his personal trainer, his coaches, who's they? And why was it a SARM? Now, if it's in the United States, perhaps it's because steroids are illegal unless it's prescribed by a doctor. But I do believe he could easily have gotten a prescription. He could have gotten a prescription for testosterone. And so why not do it healthier than last time? I believe that HRT is healthier than SARMs. He may have used RAD 140. It might have been Ostrine, LGD 4033. The list of potential SARMs goes on and on. Many people, they're taking MK677. Dr. Mike said this is the gains pill. A lot of people think no negative side effects. Well, if you don't consider type 2 diabetes a negative side effect, then, well, perhaps it doesn't have that many. But type 2 diabetes, it can kill you younger than last time. It's not something that you want. And so please be very careful. Now, I would have wished he would have contacted Coach Greg. I could have trained him. I could have coached him. I absolutely would have put him on Turk Builder Max or Turk Platinum. Would have given him GO2 Max. And of course, G-Test Platinum to increase his testosterone. So many supplements he could take. The creatines, the pre-workouts, the Seco bars. All of this would have been beneficial. I'm sure he can also afford it. He could have had a personal chef making him the recipes for my cookbook. And so, hey, it's not too late. I mean, you're 165 pounds, 5'9". If you want to get some muscle back on, it's not too late. Do it healthier than last time. Code Greg, 15% off. And so, Shia, if you're interested in getting me as your coach, please reach out to me. And for those of you who are not famous actors, you can also do the same. Click the link in the description, code Greg, 15% off.
And how did you lose it?
Stop doing SARMs and then stop eating.
But how much?
And so he says, I ate a lot and I took SARMs. That's how I put on all the muscle. Of course I train. And he's like, well, how did you lose the weight? Well, I stopped taking the SARMs and I stopped eating a lot. It's as simple as that. And so why didn't he just keep all that muscle? I mean, can't you just go on a bulk and then when you go on a cut, you keep all the muscle that you gained? No, not if you stop taking the SARMs and or steroids. That is how it works in the real world. And so this, a much better depiction of what it's actually like to take steroids, SARMs, and so on in order to make a transformation. It doesn't last.
He's clean. He's clean.
Yeah, but it was really big, and now it looks like Gollum.
And so he's size shaming him now. He's like, man, he's really big. Now he looks like Gollum. Like, what the frig? Like, how are you so small? You were a big guy boxing not too many months ago. You can lose weight pretty fast. We've seen it in The Rock. And so please understand that just because you use steroids or SARMs briefly, that you're not just going to keep all those gains.
Thought I was 220, 215,
220.
220, and now I'm 165, sort of.
That's a lot of weight to put on and lose. But you actors do kind of extreme shit, don't you?
All right, why don't you slow down making me feel small?
No, but you do,
all right?
don't you?
Yeah,
And he's like, look, like, are we really needing to size shame me right now? Yeah, I was 220. At 5'9", it probably puts him as being obese. At 165, it's actually a lot healthier. And considering the fact that he's not abusing SARMs right now, that his doctor told him that essentially he was going to die if he kept doing this, then don't you think he made the correct decision? But if you keep making fun of him, putting him down, and he wasn't a confident man, what do you think would happen? What do you think happens in the real world? People make fun of people, they belittle them, and before you know it, these guys are getting limb lengthening surgery. They're now 6'5" after being 5'7", and they're literally walking on crutches and in a wheelchair just because people made fun of them for being too short. Please don't take what people say to you so seriously. Like, so many people in this world, almost everyone is just trying to get by on their own. They're trying to keep their own self-esteem intact, and so they say a lot of things things to other people in order to cope themselves. So if you get a lot of hate, people putting you down, making fun of your looks, you're too ugly, you're too skinny, whatever it may be, just don't listen to these people. It's hard not to. Of course, you're going to hear them, but in one ear and out the other. That's what happens when they give you insults. When it's a compliment, in one ear and let it resonate.
This sounds like a conversation you can have at the bar afterwards, and you can measure up.
The host is like, I gotta get them off topic here. We're trying to promote a movie, and these guys are admitting to taking performance-enhancing drugs, to taking SARMs, making fun of each other and their height and weight and so on. Yeah, let's change the subject. Let's talk about this at the bar. This isn't something we want to talk about.
Tell everybody else, what compelled you to write this story?
And so, I mean, I'm personally more interested in the guy's weight loss transformation, the weight gain, and how he felt about that. I think it's an amazing story. I recently just watched a movie from China in subtitles. The woman lost about 100 pounds during the movie to play the end of the movie, where she got motivated to lose all that weight. She was 220 pounds, got down to about 123 pounds, and they showed her lose the weight. It took her just over a year. That was for a movie. And so that, to me, made the movie viral. That's what everyone wanted to see. And so a big transformation, I think it's important to talk about. Imagine in the Smashing Machine, imagine if they put The Rock on a panel like this and people started asking questions and The Rock was like, my circumflex artery was, it was really getting shut down. And so I made a conscious decision to stop blasting hella tren, which I've been doing since I was in my 20s, perhaps even in my teen years. And so I lost 50 pounds of muscle since that movie. People would be losing their minds. They would be laughing. The Rock would be praised for his honesty. Wow, you actually admit you abused Test, Trent, and so on. Yeah, I was trying to play a superhero like Black Adam, and I was the biggest wrestler. I was famous, and it got the best of me. I wanted to be what everyone expected of me, but I realized now at 53 that I can't keep doing this. And so I'm on doctor-prescribed HRT, and that's it. And I care about my health, and I'm going to get significantly smaller. And I want to tell all the young people out there, I should have been more honest. I should have been more open and admitted that I was taking steroids to get this look. I was scared I would lose my fans, my audience. I just didn't have the courage. And I just want to come out and tell you guys, I want to be vulnerable and tell you that you don't need to use steroids. I did these things and it worked, but I have regrets. Look at my circumflex valve. The doc said perhaps I'll be dead in 5 to 10 years. And so it's not worth it. I want to be around for my wife and my family, my kids. And so don't make the same mistakes as I do. Imagine that interview. How would that go on? Versus just saying, and so how was it acting in that role? How much did you train? Nobody really cares. But if you're vulnerable and explain exactly the things that you're going through and you're 100% honest, like this guy, that would make for a great interview. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Please like the video if you liked it. Don't forget to watch one of those two books, the cookbooks, the training books, coaching plans by me and my team. Algo RX. Enter code Greg for discount codes on wherever you see fit. And until next time, I am out.